Good day. This is Chuck Cameron at OCTV, and the program is My Life. Today, I have a special treat. I'm sitting with Joe Ferrari, who, among other things, has been and is our treasurer for our township in Oxford, and has been at this job for a long time. We greatly appreciate his effort and the fact that he was willing to come into our studio today to take a few minutes out of his busy day. So Joe, thank you for taking time to talk with me.
Thanks, Chuck, for inviting me.
Appreciate it. And so the folks are interested in finding a bit more about your life.
Okay.
Let's start with what you're up to today. What do you do? How long have you done it? And maybe why are you doing what you're doing?
Oxford Township Treasurer. I've been doing it for 31 years. I'm very blessed and very fortunate. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy interacting with my community. And it's something I hope to do as long as my community would like me to continue doing it.
Excellent. Well, as part of the community, I'll vote for that for as long as you want to work.
Thank you.
So we appreciate that. And you're over in the township offices?
Yep, township offices are 300 Dunlap.
Got it. A nice place to work.
Yep, very nice place.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's what you do. Let's drag you back a week or a month or a decade or a few. Talk to us about the things that helped Joe become the guy he is today. Talk about, if you would, starting out, where'd you grow up? Tell us a little bit what life was like in your home when you were young.
I grew up in Ray Township. My parents were originally from Detroit. They were Mount Clemens, and they moved out to Ray Township. I come from family-owned businesses, so I understand the whole idea of the work ethic and what it means to work hard. My grandfather brought the business over from Italy. He was a knife sharpener. All knife sharpeners come from the same part in Italy that are all in the world, all over the world. They all come from Pensolo in Italy. He came over from the Ellis Island. I got copies of all that information. And then he came over and started in New York and moved over to Detroit.
How long ago did he get to Detroit? Do you know?
Okay, I think it's 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
Then my grandmother was still in Italy and he sent for her.
Excellent.
So that's how that all started. And my grandparents, my mother's side, he was a fruit peddler. So he had his own business too. That's before the Nino Salvaggio's and the Randazzos.
Yep.
They're the ones that went through the neighborhoods.
The carts.
Yep.
Yes.
He had trucks and everything. I remember when I was younger, I went on his fruit truck.
Yep.
So I thought that was interesting.
Oh, it would be.
And I'd always work with my dad in his business for all through my high school and college years.
What did Dad do?
Knife sharpener.
Got it.
He took it over from my grandfather. Him and his two brothers have it. Now my brother has it.
So if anybody needs knife sharpening, I suppose you have some modest skill set.
Oh yeah, I've been doing it my whole life.
I bet you have.
My brother still does it.
Excellent.
And they still have the shop over on Grossbeck in Mount Clemens.
Excellent. Okay. So what was life like at home? Tell me about your folks and your family.
Everything was great. My cousins lived next door to me. And we lived over in a rural area, more of a farm area in Ray Township. And we're very close for all my relatives. So we used to have the farm, and they'd come out to the farm and everything, and my cousins would, and their parents and my aunts and uncles. So growing up, it was a very close-knit family.
Excellent. Brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I've got one brother and two sisters.
Older or younger?
Younger. I'm the oldest.
I'm the oldest. All right. Excellent. Did you three get along fairly well, or were there the natural waka, waka, waka?
No, we always got along, as you are when you're growing up. My sister and I are close in age, so we had our skirmishes.
Yep.
But that you expect with siblings.
You would?
But we always got along. Everything worked out really well.
Excellent. Do your brother and sister, still live in the area?
Yeah, my brother lives in Ray Township, in Armada now, over on that side. It's kind of funny because his son, which is my nephew, plays for Bud and Kyle Raleigh. So it's kind of interesting being from Oxford. They're over there now. It's kind of interesting to see Bud with different color pants.
Different color pants.
Instead of the yellow ones, he's got the orange ones for Armada.
Ooh, yeah.
So it's interesting to see that.
A wardrobe shift.
Yep.
Indeed.
And my other sister's in Ohio. The other one's in Arkansas.
Got it. Okay. So you're a kid. You went to school out that way. Any folks in the process of your schooling, either elementary or high school, that had an influence on you? Any teachers or counselors that may have helped you steer either in the right direction or steer away from the wrong direction?
I was fortunate. Everything was pretty much, consistent for me throughout school. I've always been an academic, so it was never really an issue with me with school. I kind of followed the rules. If things had to be done, I did the papers, did all the homework and everything. And I went to New Haven High School, which is kind of a smaller school, but it taught me everything. I've always been a big proponent of public education because every school has their positives, whether it's public, private, and to me, a public schools can be just as good as any other schools. Everything is what you put in, is what you get out.
What did you do at high school? Did you do any kind of specific activities that you enjoyed?
I did football and baseball, which I enjoyed that. So the National Honor Society. And I did mainly because we had small classes. I mean, we had like 80 kids in a class. Oh. So it wasn't really, the 200-300 type thing.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting to see all that and all the dynamics. And we were very close-knit school. And you still see some of the people here and there, but I'm out here. A lot of folks are still in that area. Yeah. So yeah, it's a really nice school. I enjoyed it.
You migrated to the far west.
Yep.
It does change when we leave the exec community.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Are your folks still around?
Yeah, I'm very blessed. My mom and dad are still alive.
Oh, you're lucky.
Still in the same house that we grew up in.
Really?
Yep. So we still go there for family functions and everything.
I bet so.
So that's really the only sad thing is my aunt and uncle live next door. They passed. Mm-hmm. Some of my cousins have that house. So they're kind of rehabbing that and possibly selling it. So that's kind of interesting to get used to.
Staying with the family area for a while anyway.
Yep. And we still only, there's a farm across the street. Mm-hmm. They used to have an old schoolhouse on it years and years ago. So we still have the farm across the street. It's still in the family.
So you get back there from time to time?
Yeah, I try to check on my parents here and there and try to visit them. And during all the holidays, my mom still does all the cooking and all that.
Mm-hmm. Early memories of some things that may have happened in grade or high school that you consider to be things you really enjoyed.
Well, it was interesting. One year I went over to a Catholic school. Mm-hmm. Our millage didn't pass, so I think it was 5th grade. I went to a Catholic school, and at that time, you really didn't kind of know which way you were going to go. Mm-hmm. So they used to have classes broken out between those that, were more academic and those that weren't as academic. And as I kind of learned and grew, I kind of realized that if I challenged myself, I could get to the higher level. Yep. So really got the work ethic in me that said, hey, you can always go for the low-hanging fruit. If you really work hard and keep your mind focused, you can also do better as well.
I'm thinking as a taxpayer of our little community here, I'm glad that you have aspirations of doing things well and thoroughly, given your role as a treasurer.
Yeah, I'm very blessed.
Seems like the numbers ought to actually balance.
Yeah, yeah, we're very particular. And I'm very blessed. I've got a great staff.
Excellent.
Tracy and Sarah have been with me for a little bit. Tracy's been like over 20 years.
Really?
And to me, I've always feel you're only as good as your staff.
Yeah.
You've got to have good people underneath you. And I've been very blessed in that respect.
So back when you were growing up, did you have any idea as to what you wanted to be when you were an adult? Back in, say, high school?
Well, I'd wanted to go into the journalism field because that's my undergraduate degree. Okay. And then as I'd gotten into it, I've always enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. But then I could kind of see where that was all progressing. And you started to see in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, you started to see people kind of migrate away from that. When computers, I was right in the beginning of all the computers. Yep. When I was in high school, I took a typing class. Mm-hmm. I used to tell my friends, this is the most worthless class I'm ever going to take. Yes. But you need to fill up your time.
Me too.
So I took it, not knowing that it morphed into keyboarding. Yeah. And as you've grown all, I realized that's one of the best things I ever did.
We can tell the people, guys especially maybe, who never took typing class because it was going to be a goofy waste of time.
Exactly.
And now they're working with 2 fingers, and I feel bad for them because learning that at this point is a little tough to do.
Oh, it's very hard.
Yep.
And that's one thing I credit with is being in those classes and learning that. So as I've moved on, I was able, it's also journalism and any type of writing skills you get can help you at any career you have.
Yep, because everything has to be written.
Oh, it's incredible. Even like now, even though I do with a lot of numbers, so I have to write memos to the board, I can get them done in 5 minutes.
Yep.
Because I have that knowledge to be able to build on.
Yep. Excellent. We're going to take a little break. When we come back, we're going to talk about once you passed out of high school, get into college, and press on from there. So stay with us, and you stay with us, and we'll be back in just a minute. Thank you. take you back. You're in school. Now, let's get you to college.
Okay.
You did some journalism there, right?
Yeah, I went to Oakland University for my bachelor's and my master's.
What drew you to journalism?
I'd always liked to write,
Yeah.
and I've always enjoyed that, and I like the idea of being able to express myself. I've always felt I'm a better person expressing myself in writing than verbally.
Yeah.
I'm able to take my time and basically wordsmith everything how I want to say it.
Oh, you are a precise person. That's important with writing. Say
Yeah.
it correctly.
Correct. You want to make sure that what you mean to convey is what you're actually conveying. I'd done that, and I enjoyed that. And after college, I went and worked at a couple local newspapers, one out in Richmond, and then one out in Oxford. And then from there, I went on to my current position. It was interesting, when I first started in Richmond, I started to see kind of how the newspaper business was evolving. People were starting to, there's doing a lot of downsizing, a lot of consolidations. And one of my first mentors, I was a reporter and he was the editor back in Richmond. We got along really well, and I talked to him one time. His managing editor came and wanted to chat with him. So he came and they chatted all that, and he was really upset when he left.
Really?
Yeah, and I told him, I said, what happened? He said, I just got laid off.
Ooh, yeah.
So that kind of really made me step back and go, wow, it's going to be more consolidation, not expansion. And as technology and everything's grown, we've seen what's happened.
Yeah, we do. So then you're at journalism, but you're seeing the future and it's not looking so bright.
Correct, only because you could kind of see how the newspaper industry and all that was going.
Yep.
The old days of the 30s and 40s where mom and dad get the newspaper and they're reading and everything. You could see that wasn't the way to go. And I looked at it as eventually I wanted to get married and have children, and I wanted to have a career that could support that. So I decided to get into government. And
Yep. So how'd you get into government?
back in 1992, I decided to run for office. I was very fortunate, I was successful. And from then on, I've run every term since then, and I've been very blessed that the people have chosen to still elect me.
Well, I'm voting for that to continue, by the way.
Thank you. I
For the
appreciate that.
off-the-record record.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned you'd like to have a family. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I met my wife when I was a reporter. I just started, her family's from Leonard, and I had met her when she used to work at her family's bakery. And I had asked her out, and God, 26 years ago, maybe 27 years ago now.
Excellent.
And then we went out and everything, and we were together. And from then on, a little bit after that, we got married and we had our family.
Well, how could it be bad to somebody who has a family background in the bakery world? I'm a fan of good baked goods.
Yep.
That's great. What's her name?
Lori.
Lori?
Yep.
And you and she are together and live
Yep.
around here?
Yeah, we
now,
live
right?
over in Waterstone.
Got it. Okay.
We used to live in Clear Lake. We loved it there.
Yeah.
You know, we hated to move.
Yep.
But we looked at the economics. It just didn't make sense to build an addition
Yep.
for $250,000 and not be able to get
Yeah.
the money out of your house.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's beautiful over
Let's
there.
see, you're a numbers guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a consideration, wouldn't it?
Exactly. A lot of good people over there. We've been a lot of good friends. We still talk to them. Really good neighborhood. We loved it.
Excellent.
And we're doing the same thing in Waterstone. A lot of good folks over there too.
There are. You said you have kids?
Yes, I have a 16-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Excellent. What are their names?
Augusto's 16, Alex is 7. Augusto's adopted from Guatemala.
Excellent.
We had adopted him back in 2000, I can't remember, 2006. It was kind of interesting going to a different country and understanding that whole scenario.
Yep.
And it was really, I mean, it just, for me, being kind of from small town type of thing, going through that environment, it was odd because I remember when we'd gotten off the plane, we stayed at the hotel, their kids probably 14 or 15, they're armed guards. Like when you walk right up with,
They've got the guns.
exactly, like, an automatic. I was like, whoa, just kind of makes you understand, you're not in your small little piece of the world.
Nope.
But we visited him once, then come back, did all the paperwork, adopted him, brought him back to the U.S.
What's he like?
He's a good kid, he really is.
Yeah.
He's very empathetic. He's very, very in touch. I mean, he can see things before things happen. He's a really good kid. He's a good big brother. He's really good joy in our life.
Excellent. And your daughter?
No, son.
Other son.
He's 7.
Yeah, 7.
He's over at Clear Lake.
Got it.
What was interesting with him is because the reason why we had adopted is because back then the doctor says, well, you guys can't have children.
So much for the
that
doctor's
happens.
theory.
So that didn't end up working out.
Yep.
So we had Alex years later.
Yep.
And he's over at Clear Lake, and he's one of those kids that's very kind to everybody.
Right.
Just one of those kids that
That's great.
is a friend to everyone.
Yeah.
Both our kids are different.
Yep.
We're very blessed that they're both very good kids.
They get along pretty well?
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's tough things when you have a 7-year-old and a 16-year-old. It's like having 2 separate families.
It is.
Because what the 16-year-old does, the 7-year-old doesn't want to do.
Yep.
So usually one I bring into practices, games, the other ones I do something different with.
Right.
But it keeps you young.
It does keep you young, I'm sure of that. I'm sure of that. So what do you learn from your kids?
I probably learn patience, which you can always kind of use a little bit more of that. Because sometimes you want things to go a certain way, then you have to kind of step back and look at it through their eyes.
Right.
And realize that, no, that's kind of not the way it needs to go.
Yep.
And you kind of learned a little bit more. I don't know, I guess I grew up with a mother that did a lot for us, the same with a father. So I've kind of done the same thing with my kids, where I want to give them just enough to then kind of learn, but also to be there as their backup and their support. So I've been very fortunate with that.
Excellent. So what do you learn from your colleagues at the township?
You always learned, I've sat on many different boards since 1992, and every board has a different way of doing things. I've learned a lot from all the different board members throughout the years. It was interesting, just as you've served with different people, I mean, just how you can pick up different things, like kind of how they approach things. I mean, our former clerk, Clara Sanderson, I learned a ton from her. More things that, just because somebody asks you a question, you don't have to be Johnny on the spot. If you have to do some research, I always tell folks, say, I'll let you know, let me get back to you, let me do some research. That was a very valuable lesson, because a lot of times when you're talking, somebody says, what about X? You just want to respond.
You want to respond.
When you should kind of step back and sometimes say, maybe there's more to it, you need to look into it.
So the difference between giving them an answer and giving them
The correct
a good
answer.
A correct answer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot.
Guy, right? Yeah. Okay, I've got that.
Yeah, so that worked out really well. And you learn something from all your board members.
You do.
You know,
What do they learn from you?
I'd hope that they learn my thoroughness
Yeah.
and my ability to try to work with everybody and to always step back and think about things. I've always prided myself in not being hot-headed and not being overreactive. I try to look at the whole, basically being able to read a room.
Yeah.
Look at the lay of the land, see what needs to be done, and do your research, come back with a good, solid answer. And I've always thought that always works out best, especially within government. Usually when you jump the gun, try to go a little bit further ahead of the game, that's when you run into problems.
Yeah.
You know, where kind of if you step back, take a breath. And I always, at least with me, I always pride myself on research. We have board meetings, agendas, I always know the agenda back and forth. So I want to be able to comment and understand it and read it and do the research.
Got it. So how many hours a week do you typically spend at work?
I work right around 40, 45.
Right.
We're fortunate too, in this day and age, there's many different ways to work.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've got a laptop, so a lot of times I'll bring that home over the weekend and get some things done I have to. Maybe stay late, come early. A lot of it just depends what's going on in that week or during that time period.
Right.
And that's what's fortunate is, in this day and age, there's so many different ways to work.
Yeah, there
It
are.
was funny, I went to like Evergreen to see people there like setting up shop.
Yep. It's amazing, isn't it?
Oh,
I know. Their shop is right downtown. The smell of coffee and the proximity to baked goods would be a distraction for me.
Yeah.
But for some people, it's just right on.
And it works out really well.
It does.
You know, and I think a lot of it, at least, and I try to do that with my staff, I'm more interested in output.
Yeah.
I want to see what's actually being done.
Yeah. Get the job finished.
Exactly. And everybody works different.
Yeah.
I mean, some folks are more like a 12 to 8 people.
Yep.
Some are different. I mean, and I try to be flexible with my staff too. Yep. If you guys need to take off early on a Friday and you want to work through lunch, you want to be flexible.
Yep.
The old ideas of, hard-nosed, 8 to 5, I mean, a lot of that's going by the wayside. You want to make sure that you're working as a team.
For probably pretty good reasons, it's gone by the wayside.
It's kind of interesting to kind of see how everything's evolved.
It is that. Well, we're going to take a little break here, and when we get back, we'll talk a little bit about more recent life for you, what's going on in your life. So stay with us, you stay with us, and we'll catch you in a minute. Thanks for watching, by the way. So let's get a little more current, if you will.
Sure.
One general question. You've been around Oxford for a week or two,
Correct.
or a decade or three, maybe. How has this town changed in the time you've been here? Just jump on that, if you would.
The interesting thing is we've become more of a residential community.
Okay.
We don't know if that's good or bad. And you've seen a lot of, like with Waterstone and some of the, you see more residents coming than you with businesses.
Yeah.
But I think you're starting to see a shift. You're going to see that, I think, in years in the shift. A lot of those businesses, those jobs went overseas. There's a big shift in this country to bring a lot of that stuff back.
There is.
So you're going to see, I think, some of that stuff come back. The main challenge is going to be, is the infrastructure going to be in place to let that happen? If I had John Doe Tool and Die Shop, can I get enough of my parts and my equipment and not be on back order for 6 years in order to get it to come back and restart my business?
The big question. It's nice to say bring it back, but you better be able to do that well.
Well, exactly, because you got a lot of startup costs.
Yep.
And we're seeing it now. We are purchasing a new fire engine. It's like 2 years out. So you had to go get everything ready to go and pretty much have the purchase ready. So we set at a current price, and so we get it delivered in a couple of years. So we got to work through all those kinks and allow these small businesses to come back, because that's going to be the backbone of any community, the small businesses.
You have to have jobs.
And you're seeing a lot of them change too, which is interesting. Back in the day, you had the 24-hour restaurants, the 24-hour supermarkets. Still have some of that, but a lot of that's changed, where people are starting to now try to get a better work-life balance, and they're trying to basically make it where it's more profitable for them. And I get it. If you're open a 24-hour restaurant and you're going anybody in from 12 to 7, why open? So I think a lot of them are changing that. You're seeing that. So a lot of it you're seeing with Oxford is you're seeing a growth, but you're seeing a smart growth too, and we're becoming very residential, which is neither good nor bad.
So much more residences than there might have been 20 or 30 years ago?
Correct.
Got it.
Correct, and you're seeing a lot of new renovations coming on. You're seeing the old McLaren's going to get renovated. So that's going to be really nice to have a better adept medical facility. So and we're very fortunate. We've got a very good park system. We've got a very good school system. We've got a good library. We've got a good fire department. Sheriff's department does a great job for us.
Right there.
And a lot of it are services. I always tell people within government, it's all what you want to pay for. It's all your level of service. If you want to be in a community that relies on the state police and you go to neighboring communities for any parks programs, that's great. That's going to be a community part of the lesser tax base.
And little lower cost.
Exactly, but then if you want a community that has more of these amenities, you want to be able to go to a Seymour Lake Park, have your kids play on a kid's kingdom. You want to go to a good library and have your kids be able to check out a book. That's what's going to end up costing, but it all depends on what you want in your community.
So you get what you pay for?
Correct.
We should write this down.
That's what it's always been with anything within government.
Indeed.
A lot of times within government, you see the debate over what's right and what's wrong. I've never looked at it, that's what you want to pay for. If you want to pay for your own DPW, your own parks, your own police, there's a cost of that. If you're willing to pay for that, then that's the route you want to go.
Yeah. It's hard to sell some of that pay for to a bunch of people who want the services but would rather not have those darn taxes.
Yeah,
you people with those taxes.
Nobody wants to pay it.
No.
But especially you got to look at a lot of it, at least in my opinion, for some of our tax base, it's an investment in your future. Something happens right now. For God, I have a medical emergency. I want to be able to have the fire department here in 2 minutes. They're here, boom, right up the street, and they're here. Not coming from, down river somewhere.
Right.
Or if I want a good education for my child, I'll be able to have a good, solid school system that gets in him or her too.
Got it. Cool. We agree, by the way. Maybe no surprise. Let's go back to you. Your bride and you. Before you had family, did you two travel? Did you see a bit of the world?
Yeah, not really outside of the area.
Yeah.
But we went to Cleveland a lot. Yep. We used to love Toronto.
Right.
It was so neat because we had a condo in Hillcrest.
Excellent.
We first together. We used to be able to lock it up and we go to Toronto for the weekend.
How nice.
Well, that's when our dollar was $1.50 over there.
Right.
You could just get a huge steak dinner and everything for like $20.
Wow.
So we enjoyed going over there. We enjoyed going to Chicago, Cleveland. So we had a lot of good times doing stuff like that.
There are a lot of fun you can have without having to get on an airplane.
Oh, exactly.
Yep.
And it worked out really well. I mean, it's only a 4 or 5 hour trip.
Yep, exactly.
And the thing I liked about Toronto, it's very walkable and very safe.
Yep.
At least back when we went through it, you could park your car and go wherever you wanted to go in that area. And that was nice.
It's an excellent community.
Oh, it's
Tough to drive during rush hour, though.
Well, it's interesting because some of my friends are still out there, and unfortunately for me, I'm more heavier set. And I said, "How are you guys so skinny?" They said, "You know what? That's exactly what they said." They said, "We walk everywhere we want to go." Everywhere. He says, one of my friends, he worked downtown. We lived like in the suburbs, like an apartment. He says, "I walk a mile to my bus stop, and then a mile to my office." So he says that's 2 miles of unintentional exercise I get morning and night. You know, that I'm not trying to.
No.
So, you know, I'm just doing that if I want to play basketball, if I want to go do something athletic. Yep. That's a bonus. Yep. So I'm getting 4 miles of exercise a day, 5 days a week.
Right. Just to do life.
Exactly.
It's not even a program. It's just doing work in life.
And that's what they'd said. And you look at it and you kind of step back and go, that is great.
Yeah.
You're walking everywhere.
Excellent. So let's look ahead, if you would, with me. You get a view of Oxford today. If you were looking ahead, if we were looking ahead, if we were sitting having a cup of coffee in 5 years or 10 years, what do you think might change in our community looking ahead? Just kind of draw some ideas out of the sky.
I think we'll continue doing what we're doing. We'll have smart growth. Mm-hmm. I think that'll help. But I'm hoping, though, too, we'll get more more commercial, you know, things like that, more different types of stores that people like to shop in. Mm-hmm. Myself personally, I'd love to see like a Hollywood, or a Nino's, or a Papa Joe's, or one of those folks. Yep. Something like that to give people more variety. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with what we have, but it's hard to be a community our size with one major grocer.
Yep.
It's hard. Yeah. You see that now with Kroger and Meijer, they're always packed. Yep. It'd be nice to have other choices.
When I look at 24, I always smile. We get north of about Tractor Supply, and it's country.
Yep.
It's just wonderful fields and farms and forests and stuff like that. Seems like there's a whole lot of expansion that could happen, even down here, that may in the next 10 years. You think this growth is going to continue commercially?
The tough thing that dampens us is we don't have water and sewer. A lot of times your businesses want water and sewer going up there. Sure. Because they may have smaller plots, or they may not want to sink money into a well and a septic. So, and the idea on that has always been, who's going to pay for it? Yep. I mean, are you going to make
back to money?
Your current system pay for it? Right. That's the issue. Yeah. And townships always take an approach is, if you want that service, you pay to extend it. Yep. Like, let's say I want my services up at Metamora Road. Right. You'd be the one to pay to extend that line. Mm-hmm. Not the current system users. Yep. So that's always been kind of a...
That's today.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see about the future when the future comes, right?
You never know. You get a big person that wants to come in,
yep.
Big job supplier, and maybe nothing to them.
Yep, exactly. Well, it's a joy to get to know you a bit better, because I've seen you in the offices, but not a clue who you really are. It's wonderful to see all the factors that have caused you to become the guy you are today. And I'm mighty glad you're a part of this community. It makes me feel good just to see you being there, because we need somebody to help chart the course of the future, and we appreciate that. You're a part of it. So, on behalf of Oxford TV, we thank you for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure today. And that's my life for today. Joe Ferrari, who does somewhat more than just take our taxes and help spend our money. A whole lot more. So, Joe, thank you very much.
Thanks, Chuck.
It's great to talk to you.
You too.
Until the next time, Chuck Cameron from My Life, you all have a great day.